My name is Veerle. I'm a senior advisor at WITH, and I will explain the need for appropriate tooling and technology when applying best practices in contract and vendor management. Now, to ensure the operational management and follow-up of all the required compliancy elements, making use of the right tooling and technology is definitely a great value. It is important to allocate sufficient resources to ensure compliance with all the legal and regulatory requirements, including the documentation and monitoring of all outsourcing arrangements in your contract portfolio. The record keeping and registration needs to be completed for all newly signed outsourcing contracts. All existing outsourcing contracts need to be regularly updated with the outcome of the latest risk assessments, performance monitoring, like dashboards and service levels, minutes of meetings, audit reports, testing reports are only just a few examples. Now, as part of your risk management framework, you should maintain an updated register of information on all outsourcing contracts, and you should appropriately document all current and existing outsourcing arrangements, distinguishing between the outsourcing of critical or important functions and other outsourcing arrangements. Now, depending on the classification of your sourcing contract, more contract data needs to be registered, and additional risk management and more regular provider performance monitoring needs to be foreseen. You will also need to maintain the documentation of ended outsourcing arrangements within the register and the supporting documentation for an appropriate period of time. Now, your register should include information for all existing outsourcing contracts, such as contract data, like the start date, the next contract renewal date, the end date of your contract, a brief description of the outsourced function, including the data that is outsourced and whether or not personal data has been transferred to a service provider. You should also register whether or not the outsourced function is considered critical or important. And you should also provide a brief summary of the reasons why the outsourced function is considered critical or important. So it's really on how you made your decision that you should also document. Now, if the outsourcing is cloud-based or not, the location where the outsourced data is held should also be registered, and you should also note if subcontracting is applicable, the date of the most recent risk assessment and a brief summary of the main results. The dates of the most recent audits need to be registered, an identification of alternative service providers, and the date when the regulator has been informed of the critical or important outsourcing. Now, these are just some examples of the data that is required to be registered in your register requested by the authorities. There's many more data fields, but this is just an example to give you an overview of what kind of contract data you should maintain in your register.